This is the Cantor Cafe. It has this waiter and this chef. Let's call them Tom and Bob. Tom talks to customers to get down their order, and Bob processes the order. As more customers come, Tom will continue getting down their orders, but Bob will start getting overloaded. Too many orders at once. This is why they put in a queue. Tom can get orders done as fast as he wants, but each order waits in the queue until Bob is ready to process it. Now they have a stable system. This is how queues work every day, behind Amazon, Ticketmaster, and everything that runs a lot of servers. The order is a message, Bob is a consumer, and Tom is a producer. Imagine a single consumer, a single Bob running the kitchen in our analogy. If it can process one message every 10 milliseconds, its service rate is 100 messages per second, and the rate the producer sends out messages is called the arrival rate. If this arrival rate is 90 messages per second, the queue is stable. The consumer can handle up to 100, so it has spare capacity to handle even 10 more messages each second. As soon as that arrival rate goes up to 101, then we have a problem. Every second, the consumer is supposed to service 101 messages, but it can only handle 100. The last message has nowhere to go, so it stays in the queue, and this adds up every second. In 10 minutes, we have 600 stray messages in the queue, and in a whole day we have 86,400. The queue length tends towards infinity, just because the producer was sending one extra message that the consumer couldn't handle, and all those messages just never get processed because there isn't enough capacity for it. Specifically, an important law in queue theory is Little's Law, published by John Little in 1961. It tells us that the average number of items in a simple queue, L, is equal to the arrival rate multiplied by the wait time for each message. We can draw a graph to show the relationship between the length of the queue and the wait time. If we want to decrease the wait time, we have to reduce the average number of items in the queue. This tells us some interesting things. Take rho to be the utilization of the queue. It's the arrival rate divided by the service rate. The average number of items in the queue would be rho divided by 1 minus rho. And as the utilization approaches 1, this would mean the denominator approaches 0. And of course, dividing by 0 never ends well. But it doesn't stop there. If you receive 100 messages a second and process 100, the queue should be empty. But in practice, it usually isn't, because messages don't arrive like a heartbeat. The waiter doesn't process exactly one order every 5 seconds. Sometimes there's a gap where the producer might be stuck. While there's a gap, the consumer is idle, and that's wasted capacity you can never earn back. But other times, the producer will get maybe 150 messages done, instead of 100. In this burst, the messages pile up, and the consumer gets overwhelmed again. So how do we fix queues? Let's take a look at Kendall's notation for a sec. We've been looking at an MM1 queue. The first M tells us the producer is sending messages randomly, and there will be periods of bursts and gaps. The second M tells us the time it takes for the consumer to service a message is also random. And the 1 tells us that there is one consumer. Let's change that to 3. So we have an MM3 queue now, 3 consumers. Back to that formula, the average number of items in a queue. Utilization is the arrival rate over the service rate. But now that we have more consumers, we can just tack that onto the denominator. Suddenly, the utilization has been divided by a third, and the average number of items drops exponentially. We can generalize this. For an MMC queue, where C is the number of consumers, the utilization of the queue is the arrival rate over the product of service rate and number of consumers. But hiring more chefs or buying more servers is expensive. So in practice, queues do something called autoscaling. Based on the number of items in the queue, the autoscaler can launch another consumer, and now the items in the queue will have halved. And when there's too little items, the autoscaler can shut down one of the consumers to save costs. If we can't make the service rate faster, we could also just make the arrival rate slower. This is called back pressure. You can set a threshold, for example 5 messages in the queue. If the producer notices that more than 5 messages are currently in the queue, it can forcibly slow down its arrival rate, and the average messages in the queue drops again. We can also try to reduce the randomness of the arrival rate. Instead of the producer sending a message as soon as it's made one, it can wait until it's made, say, 10. It then hands it over in a single batch. The bigger each batch is, the more predictable the arrival rate would be. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see computer science theory and practice come together.